With all of these competitors and potential threats, how would Dropbox be able to thrive? I think the key answer comes down to, well, what does the Dropbox management look like? And how were they able to compete before? And how do you think they will compete in the future? Let's look at the two founders of Dropbox, Drew Houston and Arash Ferdowsi. Drew Houston, age 32, is the CEO and co-founder of Dropbox. His net worth is roughly $1.3 billion from Dropbox. His academic background came from MIT, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. Now, he came up with the idea for Dropbox because he was taking a trip from Boston to New York on the bus. If you have ever done so before, you would know that it's a very, very long 4-hour drive. On the bus, he forgot his USB drive, which he needed to work on coding on the bus. So he came up with the idea that, well, it would be great if there's a way to synchronize data from the web to the computer whenever you need it. So he pitched the idea to Paul Graham at Y Combinator in San Francisco. And of course, Dropbox was invited to join Y Combinator, and Dropbox was formed. So now Drew Houston's key saying is just me and my code, and I would assume that that's because he's a pretty well known in his enthusiasm in computer programming, and obviously he's also a very highly skilled programmer. In December 2009, with 50 million users, Houston actually rejected Steve Jobs' offer to acquire Dropbox. Well, then Apple launched its own iCloud. Now, some people will say, hey, doesn't that word look like Houston instead of Houston? Well, it is actually pronounced Houston. So, just in case somebody asks. Now, the CTO and co-founder Arash Ferdowsi, he attended MIT, and that's where he met Houston. He actually dropped out of MIT to start Dropbox with Houston. Let's take a look at the history of Dropbox. Dropbox could be categorized into three phases. Between 2007 to 2011, it could be categorized as its startup phase. Between 2012 to 2013, it was his growth phase. Between 2014 and 2015, it was industry leadership competition phase. So during the startup phase, it was critical that in 2007, Dropbox received seed funding from Y Combinator. In 2008, Dropbox officially launched at TechCrunch 50. In May 2011, Dropbox struck partnerships with SoftBank and Sony Ericsson. During its growth phase, in 2012, Dropbox was critical in its ability to win partnership with Facebook. In 2012, Dropbox acquired Snapjoy, which was a service aggregating and viewing pictures. In 2013, Dropbox acquired Mailbox and Endorse. In 2013, Dropbox had a total registered number of users at 200 million. During Dropbox industry leadership competition phase, which is still ongoing right now, starting in 2014, Dropbox acquired Bubbly and Hackpad. Hackpad is a real-time collaborative editing software. In November 2014, Dropbox partnered with Microsoft Office. In January 2015, Dropbox acquired Cloudon, which was a mobile file editing and creation software. In July 2015, Dropbox acquired Clementine, which is an enterprise communication software. In August 2015, Dropbox announced the availability of USB security key for two-factor authentication. The trend that we see here is that Dropbox is actively consolidating enterprise communication related technologies to further ensure that the barrier to entry to get into the enterprise space is a lot harder for other companies. In January 2014, it was the latest public round that Dropbox raised, and it raised $350 million at that time at a pre-money valuation of 10 billion US dollars. One thing to note was that a few months after that, JP Morgan actually followed up with a $500 million in debt financing for Dropbox. Now, this is interesting because most startups are really not able to get debt financing from banks in general because unless they're extremely profitable. It means that their debt service coverage ratio must be able to actually cover the interest rates and also the payback amount on a monthly or quarterly basis to be able to do this. So we can actually note that in 2014, Dropbox was already wildly profitable. On this slide, you'll see a list of Dropbox investors. These investors are probably some of the most powerful Silicon Valley venture capital firms and Wall Street uh, funds and investment banks. So you'll see that Dropbox actually has $500 million in debt and $600 million in equity, which is roughly about 82% in terms of the debt to equity ratio. So it is a pretty healthy capital structure. With all of the great things we said about Dropbox, what are some of the future challenges for Dropbox that we can think of? Well, I listed out five of them. The first one is, will Dropbox be able to compete with industry competitors as they start to really gear up their technical capabilities and also user base? Number two, how will Dropbox be able to grow into China? After all, China holds 1/4 of the world's population. Number three, will Dropbox be relevant once other applications on top of file sharing become more popular, such as Slack or Moxtra? Number four, will Dropbox be able to stand the test of the next stock market crash with or without an IPO? Number five, will Dropbox continue to be successful with its acquisition and partnership strategies for growth? There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. I'm hoping that the audience will have an opportunity to contemplate on the materials presented so far and to make your own assessments on the future challenges of Dropbox. Thank you.